And we are reaching out and working with our community partners that we have here today. We have Humana, Healthy St. Pete, and St. Pete Free Clinic, No Kid Hungry. And so we'll be introducing our panelists shortly, but we are doing monthly webinars, and we're going to be talking about mental health and how it relates to all aspects of our lives. And today we're going to be talking about eating healthy. And, we always talk about getting enough sleep and taking time for yourself and eating healthy. It all really incorporates into your overall wellness. So that's what we are going to be talking about today. And I'm so excited to introduce our panelists. So today we have Ariane Corbett from Humana and No Kid Hungry. We have Christy Bruner from Healthy St. Pete. And we also have Molly Holden from the St. Pete Free Clinic. So I'm going to just kind of kick it off to Ariane, and just so she can introduce herself. So Ariane, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Denise. I appreciate it. So my name is Ariane Corbett, and I'm a registered dietitian, and I have a consulting company called Leading Health, where I work on a variety of policies and programs focused on ensuring that kids have access to healthy, nutritious meals and snacks at home and at school. And so for the last 5 years, I've worked with No Kid Hungry, and their mission is to end childhood hunger. So No Kid Hungry's work is really centered around increasing access to sustainable federal nutrition programs. So those are your school meals, summer meals, after school meals and snacks, SNAP program, the Women, Infants, and Children program for babies and pregnant women. And what we do is provide emergency grants to close the gaps between kids and meals. Here in Pinellas County, we've provided over $400 million in the last year to community organizations to help ensure that kids have access to meals. Obviously this has been a trying year, and there's been a lot of need, and so that has been our contribution. We also provide technical assistance on best practice strategies and participate in local, state, and federal advocacy and help raise awareness around childhood hunger. I think, the connection here for mental health is, we know through the research that mental health outcomes in children and teen are influenced by food insecurity. Having limited and uncertain access to food negatively impacts social, emotional, behavioral development of kids and adolescents, and it can inhibit social skills development and their interpersonal relationships, their ability to maintain self-control, and their ability to learn, which obviously impacts them throughout their life. We also see a lot of correlation between food insecurity and kids' levels of anxiety and irritability. So this is really important in the midst of this pandemic, when food insecurity has gone up so much. Right now we're looking at 1 in 3 kids in families that are struggling with hunger here in our state of Florida. So this is impacting not just a few children. This is impacting a lot of our state's kids and a lot of our community's kids. And I think the other important thing that we're starting to see is that we're no longer just talking about food insecurity, we're talking about nutrition security. And that is really the combination of not having enough food, but also not having enough access to healthy foods that improve well-being and improve diet quality. And so I think I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you about, what we're seeing in the research, and also those promising strategies to make sure that kids have access to food, and healthy food that promotes mental health and physical health. So thank you for having me here today, and I look forward to being a part of this panel.
Great, thank you so much. And it is true, we've been hearing too a lot that a lot of, families, they count on the school system to feed their children in the morning and in the afternoon. And I know there's a lot of anxiety when it comes to family members, come Friday, when that 3 o'clock bell rings and those kids leave, what are they going to do for food over the weekend? So thank you, Ariana, and No Kid Hungry for what you're doing. I think it's a huge resource in our community. Next, I would like to introduce Molly Holden from the St. Pete Free Clinic. Welcome, Molly.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm Molly Holden. I am also a registered dietitian and the manager of health education at the St. Pete Free Clinic. So the role really takes health education and tries to expand it throughout the entire organization. And for us, what we're really focused on is addressing the social determinants of health. These are conditions that people are, born into. it's conditions that they grow, live, work in. And what we're really trying to do is, with compassion and respect, address factors like socioeconomic status, education, housing, employment, access to healthcare. So we do that through programs that focus on health. So we have a health center that provides both primary care and referrals, as well as we partner with the Well for Life with Dr. LaDonna Butler to provide mental health and behavioral health services there. And then we also are really focused on, through our fresh pantry and our food banking, providing nutritious food. So I think last month, our goal is no less than 70% of what we provide is fresh produce, dairy, and meat. I think the statistics just came out for last month that 83% of what we were providing was fresh last month. So that's a big accomplishment for us, really providing fresh foods for the people within our community. And then also trying to increase access for housing. And also part of the nutrition side is that our community food bank, not only do we have the pantry at St. Petersburg Free Clinic, but also our community food bank provides food for about 60 different partners throughout the county. And so I think last year the stats were about 15.4 million pounds of food were provided through our food bank last year. We're really proud of that. Especially during COVID, we're seeing about 1,700 individuals per month. 17,000 individuals per month come through the food bank. And so really trying to address those social determinants of health directly there, and, do what we can to also listen within the community for what they need, try to plan ahead, but also be nimble to try to show up in different ways that the community needs. So that's us at the Free Clinic.
Wonderful. Thank you, Molly. And we know the St. Pete Free Clinic, you all really have a very strong footprint in the community. So thank you for what you do. I know I was able to visit the St. Pete Free Clinic during one of the food drives, and just amazing amount too of volunteers that you all have. So very much needed in our community. And last but certainly not least is our great community partner, Christy Bruner from Healthy St. Pete. Christy, welcome. And can you just share with you more about what Healthy St. Pete is doing?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us, Denise. So Healthy St. Pete is actually part of the city of St. Petersburg. We are an initiative of the mayor and deputy mayor, as well as a division of the Parks and Recreation Department. So our mission with Healthy St. Pete is to build a culture of health in the city to help make the healthy choice the easy choice. And what's something that is very important to us is that is through a collaborative community effort. So we know that there's so many resources within the city of St. Petersburg that are really aiming to do things that both of our speakers talked about, food and nutrition access, working on those social determinants of health. And we aim to be kind of an umbrella organization to elevate all of those subject area experts that already exist here, and really bringing that resource-rich community to those that need it. So we work on improving health outcomes, reducing health inequalities, and strive to implement policies and programs that truly give all citizens the opportunity to reach and enjoy optimal health. We really know the implications of all elements of health. One of our programs is entitled Health 360, in fact, that we really understand that from the outside, people tend to see health as diet and exercise. And we're talking about here another element of that, which is mental health, everything that Denise talked about, sleep, everything from financial health to youth wellness, environmental health, sustainability. We really try to encompass all of those different elements and subject area experts into bringing a cohesive wellness focus from the city of St. Petersburg. So we're really blessed to have an administration that has that foresight to know that, bringing a healthy community together takes all of these different elements. So Dr. Kanika Tomlin, who started Healthy St. Pete, who's our deputy mayor, has a background in healthcare administration, and she came to this position knowing the inequities in the city and also knowing the resource-rich available networks that are available. So she really wanted to connect those two. So, and I'm sure we'll be able to talk about some of these different programs throughout the presentation, but we have a team of health leaders that's in employed by the city of St. Petersburg on a sustainable budget to really, again, make those sustainable changes and not just have one-off programs or grant-funded programs come in and out, but this is something that is for the longevity of the community as we work through those community partnerships. So thank you so much for being here. I look forward to learning more and sharing more.
Great, thank you. And I know I see a lot of your fresh food vending machines, you know, in different parts, the rec centers. I know I always say Fossil Park, that's where my grandson goes. And he does tell me he sometimes dips in and pulls out an apple or a banana. So thank you so much for doing that. I know my family does use that service. So wonderful. So again, welcome to everybody. I would like to say that these webinars are being sponsored by our great community partners of Humana and Molina Cares. So thank you so much for their partnership. We're also going to be doing a Q&A. So if you hear something that you have more questions about, feel free to put those questions in the chat, and Gabriella will be monitoring those, and then we'll ask those questions to our panelists at the end. So as I said, these next, 35, 40 minutes, we're going to be talking everything about mental health and nutrition. And mainly the focus is going to is how nutrition can be effectively integrated into our overall health. Because we know that great nutrition or proper nutrition really fuels and it helps improve our mental health and our brain function. So we are going to be touching on that. So with that, I know, sometimes we hear the terms diet, balanced diet, and nutrition. And we know that diet is basically the kinds of food, right, that a person eats throughout the day. Then we move into, well, what's the balanced diet? And balanced diet is, eating more of a wide variety of foods. Then we come down to the nutrition part, and it's the quality of the food, right? Are we eating processed food versus are we eating fresh food? But we really combine the diet, balanced diet, and nutrition. What does that look like? So I'm going to ask, I'm going to pose this question to all the panelists to start this conversation. That is, what does a nutritious diet look like? And does this nutritious diet look the same for everyone? So Ariane, I'll go ahead and toss that question over to you and get your feedback on that. Oh, you're on mute. I know.
Yeah, I see it. No, I thank you. And then I hope Christy and Molly will jump in here. When I think about what a nutritious diet looks like to me, as a dietitian, our leading document is the Dietary Guidelines for America. And what the dietary guidelines tell us is that there's a framework for a nutritious diet. And it includes nutrient-dense foods and beverages. So that is our fruits, our vegetables, including whole grains, including, lean sources of protein, seafood, eggs, beans, just kind of that wide variety that you mentioned, but also doing the best that we can to watch and eat foods that are prepared with lower amounts of added sugars and saturated fat and salt. And so I think, a nutritious diet looks different for all of us because those are broad categories of foods. And there are a rainbow of different options within each of those categories so that we can create a diet that is based on our preferences, that's based on our cultural traditions and beliefs. And it's also based on our budgetary considerations. We can make a healthful diet in all different levels of budget. We can go to Whole Foods and we can go to town, or, we can create a healthy, nutritious, balanced diet for our families at, $15, $20 a day. So we can do it. It requires different types of planning. But I think that's the most important thing for us to take away is that we're looking at overall patterns that create healthy diets, not so much the individual foods that we eat. And I want Christy and Molly to have an opportunity here to jump in, but that's kind of my takeaway here is that we can all create a healthy dietary pattern that leads and promotes to good health, but we can do it in different ways. Christy,
Absolutely.
Molly?
Thank you. So Christy, I'll toss it over to you next.
Sure. Thank you so much. I definitely agree, Ariane. And I like what you said, that it can be different for everybody. And specifically talking about, what people tend to eat, what is familiar to them and what's available to them and what has been historically and culturally available to them. So I think, from a community perspective, really thinking about, how can we make healthier foods sustainably available to different populations. And I love that Molly said that so much, and I've seen it all over social media and all over your advertising, that the free clinic is really emphasizing the availability of fresh produce on a sustainable basis. It's not like a one-time dump. Okay, we're getting fresh fruit this week, great. Okay, after that, no way. It's a sustainable thing, and then it reestablishes patterns. So I think that's really important, to have the not only availability of the fresh fruits and vegetables, but the education that goes along with it, which I know that both of these ladies really subscribe to as well, because that will get those community leaders and the community proponents that are going to be able to sustainably bring those recipes back to their families and their neighborhoods, and say that this is something that is important to all of us as a community together. So really emphasizing the familiarity and the readily available healthy foods.
Great. Molly, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I really like that both Christy and Ariane brought up patterns. Like that word came up in both of your comments, because I think oftentimes we think about a diet as something that is restrictive, right? But really what we're talking about is a meal pattern, right? Something that you typically eat and share. And so one of the easiest ways to visualize that for me is my plate, which is what USDA has come out with. So half your plate is fruit and veggies, and the other half is protein and starches. And so we know that provides protein, fat, and fiber. And when I think about a balanced diet and how to stay full and satisfied and well nourished, having that protein, fat, and fiber in every meal and snack that we have is going to help in a lot of ways to keep blood sugar stable, to remain, be able to concentrate when you need to get things done or work, whether you're a student or you're working. So those are the things that I think about in terms of a meal pattern, is trying to focus on overall if meals and snacks can look that way. But I also think what I really connect to from a healthy meal pattern standpoint is how it enriches our relationships, how we can share our meals with other people, and how that connects us with other people, how it connects us with our heritage. Oftentimes, many of those heritage diets reflect a very healthy meal pattern. So oftentimes, if we go back to our cultural foods, they will reflect a very healthy meal pattern and an ability to share our history with each other, which I really connect with. And then we also know that when we enjoy food and we enjoy the people that we're eating it with, when we enjoy being with them, that it increases our absorption of those nutrients, which is really cool. So I think all of that factors in. So I really connect deeply with the relationship side of what a healthy meal pattern looks like, not just what's on your plate, but who you're sharing it with and how you're sharing it.
Great. And, speaking of that healthy pattern, and you mentioned about, fruits and fatties. So I know I just read recently from the American Psychological Association, the APA, that incorporating omega-3 fatty acids is linked to an anti-inflammatory, which also helps, right, with brain function and brain development. So as we're talking about food and brain and mental health, Molly, I'll just go ahead and stay with you. What are you or we discovering between the link of overall mental health and mental illness and food insecurity? Are you seeing a link? Are you seeing a correlation? And can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We are seeing a correlation. And I think we're currently doing a study with you guys at NAMI in our fresh pantry, and doing a survey and asking sort of how that connects. That data, that final data is not in yet, but anecdotally, I can tell you that yes, we're seeing a connection between mental wellness and food insecurity. And that we know that when we're able to relieve a little bit of the stress of where is my healthy food going to come from, then people do feel relief over that. We also know that there is a correlation between food insecurity and an increased risk for anxiety and depression. We're not sure if that's a one-way link. We don't know if one causes the other or how they're impacted or if it works both ways. We're still discovering that, but we do know that there is a significant increase, especially during COVID times, of a higher risk of anxiety and depression for people who are food insecure.
Right. And Chris, I want to kind of toss it over to you. You were mentioning about, education and educating people about eating healthy. So with that, how has Healthy St. Pete tailored their communication to make it more accessible for individuals to get these healthy foods and to, try to jump on that wellness journey?
Absolutely. That's definitely a priority for us. And I think for anyone really in the wellness industry or interested in communicating wellness, because you want to make it accessible to anyone with those different cultural, historical backgrounds or just different experiences with wellness in general, or even what does that word wellness mean to different people. So we don't want to just, have this information available for healthy people that are wanting to get healthier. Where can I find, I already like apples. Where can I find more apples? That's great. We want people that this is something new to them. And you want to take those community leaders that already have some buy-in and some interest in helping their community and give them the tools to bring back to their community. That's a model that has been really successful for us and across the country, really. We have a program, an initiative that we started called the Healthier Together Initiative, which Denise is familiar with. She was one of our Healthier Together ambassadors, which we really, exactly, pat yourself on the back. So that's a program, an opportunity to highlight subject area experts in our community, again, that are across the spectrum of wellness and have different expertise that we can start conversations within our social media groups, within our online groups, within the community at large, to learn more about different aspects of wellness, to find things, oh, I didn't even know, Tai Chi was something that I would be interested in, and that's something that's going to help me get healthy and follow a wellness track. And that wasn't even something I considered before. So just introducing new elements of wellness and giving these subject area experts a platform on which to do that. So we have our ambassadors. We also have a quarterly workshop series. That's our Healthier Together workshop, which NAMI was also just recognized as a certified partner. So it really just gives opportunities for people in the community to connect on different levels and to find where their entry point is to wellness as that exists in their community and their background, and giving them someone that they can relate to. So that's really important to us in our communication and our messaging, that we want to make a healthy lifestyle available to everybody that lives, works, and plays in St. Petersburg.
Yeah, thank you. And, again, on behalf of NAMI and all the other healthier ambassadors, we were really excited to have this platform to share what we're doing. And so speaking of sharing, here at NAMI, we're always talking about storytelling. We really think that storytelling from somebody's perspective really makes a huge impact in our service, in your service. So Ariane, I'll go ahead and kick it off to you, because, with No Kid Hungry, I am certain you have tons of stories, that you can share either from the parent or from the child perspective. But if you can just, kind of share with us a feel-good story of, how has No Kid Hungry, how has that really affected a family member or a child? If you can maybe share a feel-good story, from No Kid Hungry.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think I can share kind of what experiences have been. So especially pre-pandemic, most of my work was focused on the school breakfast program and making sure that schools had strong, healthy school breakfast programs, but that also that kids had access to them. Because what it's like in the mornings, whether you're from a food insecure household that maybe that child might not have had a full meal or, a healthy meal that evening, and they're, coming back to school and they're hungry, or, plenty of kids with plenty of food in the pantry aren't hungry, or get on a long bus ride, or they're dropped off late to school. And so, what I would see when I would go in to help set up a school breakfast program was, unfortunately, a lot of kids walking into school, even little ones, with a bottle of soda or a bag of chips or, a drive-through breakfast bag. And, at the end of the day, parents want to do what's best for their kids. And so sometimes that's what they have access to. If they can grab an inexpensive bite to eat or a snack at a convenience store or local fast food, I mean, they're going to fill up tummies. And that's what they're trying to do to help keep their kids, functioning for school. But unfortunately, we know that that's not always the best option for kids. And so what I saw when we were able to go in and build out these really strong breakfast programs was, instead of the kids, having that sugar high and rush and, really crashing and ending up on their desks, unable to pay attention in class, was that with a healthy breakfast, kids were able to start the day alert and attentive and ready to learn. And when I would talk to teachers about this, they would tell me how their classrooms were calmer and there were less distractions and less disruptive behavior. I would talk to principals who, once they started a good school breakfast program where all their kids were able to eat, they wouldn't have fights in the morning, and they wouldn't spend, 2 hours at the beginning of the day disciplining kids that were just hungry. They were like, the Tony the Tiger commercial, right? Like they're the Snickers commercial, they turn into, just like we all do, we're all hangry, right? And so, when you put that on kids and who also have other factors happening at home, it really impacts their ability to be successful. One thing I worked on a lot was breakfast in the classroom. And to speak to Molly's point, that what I saw in these classrooms was that the classes that ate together had stronger social connections and better relationships with their peers and their teachers. They were able to, implement these social emotional components of the day into the mealtime. They were learning manners. They were learning how to, be empathetic to one another and how to interact. And then we also saw a lot of reductions in anxiety. And if you think about a kid who might not have a lot of food at home and knows that there's food at school, but maybe isn't sure if they're going to get there on time or if they're going to run out of their favorite thing. But then now the breakfast is in their classroom, and they get to walk to their teacher, who's a known entity who can greet them with a smiling face, and they know that their food's going to be there. That just takes that anxiety completely away from the start of their day and lets them really be successful. So I think, it's been really great to see that happening. I think there are a lot of different models and a lot of different ways that we're seeing teachers also incorporate food and food education into their classrooms. And using what Molly talked about really is like, how does food connect us, and what are the origins and sources, and what are the external factors and the internal factors that influence food choices. And when we really see classrooms engage in food education and teaching kids how their health is impacted from an early age, I think we can make really big strides to not only improve overall health for these kids, and they know that the choices that they make impact their future life, but also like we can improve the culture of our classrooms, and we can improve the way that kids impact, or kids that perceive differences among each others. I think, food is just a way that we can really build stronger bridges together. And so that's the exciting thing that I've seen in the connection between nutrition and kids and classrooms, is just how we can use food as a tool to improve health and well-being, but also improve that connectedness that we need with others.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but I know growing up, my mother always drilled it into me that, breakfast is one of the most important meals a day. You cannot skip breakfast, and she would not let us out the door until we had something to eat. And, so you did touch on, all the tools that you need. And so with tools, you have to probably incorporate those tools into some type of program, right, to get it launched. And I know that the St. Pete Free Clinic, you all just have a plethora of programs. But really interesting, you also have a program that addresses eaters and the adventurous eaters, which sounds really amazing. So Molly, I would love just if you can expand on how, St. Pete Free Clinic is launching adventurous eaters, and what is that program all about?
Absolutely. So we have a partnership with the Early Learning Coalition. Right now it's in its pilot stages. But the idea is that from the age of preschool, we're starting to raise adventurous eaters. And so allowing kids and their families the ability and the resources to explore new fruits and vegetables. So each week we send to the families and also the families of the providers. Each family gets one bag of fresh produce, which usually has 4 items, usually 2 fruits and 2 vegetables. And then once a month, we send out fresh eggs too. And so with that, each week they get a coloring sheet to kind of explore the new food, fun food facts, simple recipes that the family can cook together. So things with very few ingredients that are easy to make and kid friendly. And then also we include table topics once a month. So things that allow a family to engage in conversation at the table, to really encourage building that community at the table with the family. And so that's something that we are currently building and really excited about. We've had good feedback so far from that. And it's been something really fun to do. A lot of what we do at the free clinic is often so serious, right? But so it's fun to have something to explore with young kids and be able to provide foods that they can really experiment with, right? So when someone has a limited income, it often can be, they want to provide food that they know is going to end up in a kid's belly. And so by providing these foods that they can just experiment with, fresh fruits and vegetables that they can experiment with, even sniffing a vegetable, holding a strawberry, being able to pull grapes off of the stem, those things are really help to scaffold the curiosity that can lead to conversations about what is healthy eating later, and how healthy meal patterns can impact your health long term. But we want to start scaffolding those relationships and those questions with curiosity from a really young age. So just empowering families to go ahead and have those conversations, that adventure, those curiosities. We're really excited about the new program.
Wonderful. And I know all 3 of you've used the term culturally sensitive. And when you look at that and when you look at families, so obviously Pinellas County, we are made up of all different cultures, all families. And I think that, each family looks at nutrition a little bit differently dependent on your culture. So when you talk about, introducing more fruits and vegetables, but on a cultural level and to be culturally sensitive, how can communities be culturally sensitive to their cuisines and perspectives when eating and mental health? Because I know me eating spicy food might not be in my culture, but it does in other cultures, and they use that spiciness in all their food. So how can people just be more culturally sensitive? If and I'll just kind of toss it out if anybody wants to take that question.
I guess I'll take it. Okay. So one of the things we do at the free clinic, I think I talk about the word scaffolding a lot. And so that is sort of empowering people, giving them the tools to take the fresh food that we provide and take it in multiple directions. So oftentimes we are providing sort of the raw ingredients for a family to be able to take cuisine in whatever direction they want. And so, we see ingredients like tomatoes reflected in a lot of different cultures used differently. So when we provide, raw tomatoes, when they're unprocessed, not canned, or not already seasoned in some way, it allows a family to take it in multiple different directions, however they might choose. A lot of what we are, or at least what I sort of, as I explore this new role as the manager of health education for the free clinic, is exploring different cultures within our community and how to connect those resources. One of the resources I use most frequently in whether it's recipe development or just thinking about how to, down the road, when we're able to gather for more cooking demonstrations in our teaching kitchen, which is next to our health center, how to explore more culturally relevant foods. So one of the resources that I really like is oldways.org, and they have what they call heritage diets. They're sort of the #1 proponent of the Mediterranean diet, and they also focus on African heritage diets, Latin American heritage diets, Asian heritage diets. And so using that information to sort of inform how we move forward as an organization with what we want to teach going forward, or how our fresh fruits and vegetables and the fresh meats that we provide, how that might change and how we provide variety in that in order to respect different cultural backgrounds, I think is something that we're focused on. So scaffolding, the ability for people to choose to take our foods in whatever direction is relevant for them.
Wonderful. And again, talking about the scaffolding and, again, we've all mentioned fresh fruits and vegetables. So Christy, I'll go ahead and ask you, because I know, the city of St. Pete, Healthy St. Pete, you're all about fresh food. So how can individuals in our community get involved to address the food equity and access on a local level?
Sure, great question. And as you mentioned, Denise, we do have our Fresh Rec Stop locations, which is a community level opportunity for residents to access low-cost produce in their neighborhood. So right now we have 11 of the Fresh Rec Stop locations. Those are at community recreation centers. We have one at the Boyd Hill Education Center. So they are all strategically placed to really address food inequity and nutrition inequity by zip code data based on the area. So we're really looking to match those locations with areas that really are in need for nutrition equity, and also matching, as I mentioned earlier, the education component of that. So we have one of our recreation leaders that goes out to do recipe tastings of the produce that's actually available in the produce coolers. So program participants that attend programs after school or sports programming can really access those produce. But also we want to make these recreation centers be more of wellness hubs that are in the community for them to access the education and the actual produce. We also have a program that I mentioned earlier called Health 360, and that is our community wellness program. That is an education wellness series that pre-COVID had been located at these recreation centers. It's all virtual right now, but our long-term goal is for it to be located again in these communities so people can walk to, bike to, and bring their neighbors to these wellness series right in their neighborhood. One other way that people can get involved on the community level is just to be aware of what our city council is doing, what our committees within our city council are doing. We have a new City Council did establish a food policy council in August of 2020. And that was started in one of the subcommittees of the City Council in the HERS committee, which is the Health, Environment, Resiliency, and Sustainability Committee. So City Council member Gina Driscoll was one of the ones that had brought that to the City Council's attention. And that is a great committee and council to be following. And again, for residents and for subject area experts in the city that are interested in following that, logging on to the city website, finding out when your city council meetings are. The one great thing, as we know about COVID, is that a lot of those things are available online now. That didn't, there was a barrier to access that information, but that's all available online right now to really know about the trajectory of that Food Policy Council. And that is an independent advisory board that's going to operate independent of the city. So those are all different, I believe the St. Pete Free Clinic has a member on there. So just all these different organizations that are existing within St. Pete to know what is going on and how residents can help in that.
Wonderful. So we're going to, I'm just going to ask a few more questions. I know we do want to leave, some room for some Q&A, but Ariane, I'll go ahead and ask you again, we're talking about resources and even maybe, logging on to find some resources, going to the wellness hubs, but how does food insecurity impact children in their behavior, in their learning, and what tools would they need to be successful?
Yeah. So, I mentioned at the beginning, we know that food insecure kids are at a higher risk for mental health issues and challenges. And we're also facing this dramatic rise in households that don't have enough food to feed their kids. No Kid Hungry did a nationwide survey at the height of the pandemic, and we found that 47% of American families were living with hunger throughout the pandemic. And it was higher in Black and Latino families. Well over 50% of families were struggling. And so, this is things like families being forced to make sacrifices to afford food, parents skipping meals, making meals with limited options, skipping bills like utility or rent in order to afford food. So, there are a lot of complex factors swirling around, a lot of stressors like the pandemic, adding emotional strain to the stress that's already caused by food insecurity. So these kids have a lot of things happening here that are out of their control, but that are really limiting their ability to learn. So I mentioned interpersonal relationships. Food insecurity impairs their ability to make friendships, to get along with people, to develop empathy, to control tempers, to respond appropriately to peer pressure. From a learning perspective, their attentiveness, their task persistence, their eagerness to learn, and their flexibility in the classroom all suffer. We know that kids from food insecure households engage in more altercations. They have lower levels of self-control. They even exhibit more fearfulness, anxiety, and withdrawal. And then when we get to the teen level, the research shows us that kids who experience hunger, teens that experience hunger, are more likely to get suspended, have suicidal tendencies, and struggle with depression. And food insecurity is one of those social determinants of health, right? We know that it doesn't just come out of nowhere. And so we're learning a lot more about chronic stress. And the term that they use is toxic stress, because it's this chronic level of stress caused by chronic poverty and food insecurity. And the research is showing us that it's actually leading to delays in brain development and producing anxiety, impaired mood control, and emotional behavioral disorders for kids. So just living in that chronic stress is impacting their ability now, but it's also taking them on this, negative trajectory for their health over the course of their life. And so, I think what the most important thing is that we have to help families access programs that are going to allow them to feed their children healthy diets. And so what we're learning is that, we've got, if food insecurity is so positively associated with all of these mental disorders in kids, then what that suggests to us is if we improve household food and nutrition security status, then we have the potential to significantly reduce mental disorders in kids. I was talking even with a doctor that I know at All Children's who runs a pediatric obesity clinic there. And she was saying that 75% of the kids that they are seeing have undiagnosed mental health and behavioral disorders, a lot of ADHD, but it's undiagnosed, issues. And so in order to get kids to a healthy weight, to a healthy, long-term life status, we've got to address these mental health issues. So I am a huge supporter of school meal programs. I mean, I'm just going to hit that 1,000 different times from 1,000 different ways. The school nutrition programs have changed significantly in the last 10 years. We have stronger requirements for whole grains, more fruits and vegetables. And the studies show this time and time again that kids who participate in the school meal programs have better overall diet quality than students that don't. So I think, what we can see is that if we help families access the resources that are available to them, the school meal programs, the SNAP programs, the Women, Infants, and Children program that provides nutrition education, pregnancy and in early life, that we can help get these kids and get these families on a path to success that can set them up for better learning outcomes, for better academic achievement, for higher graduation rates, and for higher economic achievement in life as well. So it starts with these little building blocks of getting kids on the path to a healthy diet in school, but that in the end, in the course of a life, can make a really, really large difference.
Wow, that really powerful stuff right there. So as we wrap up, I'm going to throw the question out to everybody, because here at NAMI, we are a community-based organization, as all of you, and we always like to share resources. We like to pull in community partners, like we're doing today and the month, in the month of May for Mental Health Awareness Month. So with that being said, how can organizations work together to promote the free access to fresh and nutritious food and mental health resources available to the community. So how can we all work together? So Molly, I'll go ahead and start with you for that final question.
Sure, absolutely. Well, so first, I guess I should I think platforms just like this are the ideal way to work together, to make different introductions. When we as an organization might not have something available, I might call Christy and say, hey, what's the city doing in this initiative right now? And just making those connections and networking, I think, is the most important, but also as organizations to compile resources that are accessible to the community. So right on our homepage, there is a resources tab. So if for some reason you can't get to our fresh pantry, we will connect you with the other pantries that we supply from our food bank throughout the county. And so it's a matter of connecting the dots. I think that's the most important thing that we can do as organizations. So, while our fresh pantry is available 8:30 to 3 Monday through Thursday, actually it's available later till 7 on Thursday. That might not fit a particular family schedule. And so to be able to connect them with one of those other pantries that we supply from our food bank, I think that's really important. And just being able to have conversations and say, I don't know where you can get that, but I know where you can get this. So being open to networking, and even if you're not the right fit for the organization, what they're looking for, being able to say, let me ask some questions, let me get back to you, or let me connect you to this person that I know. I think that's really the most powerful thing, is making those connections.
Wonderful. And so, Christy, I'll go ahead and toss it over to you. I know obviously St. Pete Free Clinic has reached out to, Healthy St. Pete. So in your perspective, how do you think that organizations can work, together?
Absolutely. I definitely agree with Molly. We, as I mentioned before, kind of our whole mission is to be an umbrella organization, to elevate what's already going on. No one needs to recreate the wheel. We really want to de-silo all of these organizations and institutions to be able to see the value, and which most already do, but giving them the avenue in which to do that. So one organization I mentioned earlier is our Healthier Together initiative and our certification program, which NAMI was just recognized. We have a resource library, community resource library, available for organizations that have been certified to be able to access those. So that's something that we're constantly compiling and building, is that resource library. So if an organization scored, lower in something like a leadership category, okay, here's X, Y, and Z seminar and workshop and resource that other organizations in the city and in the area have utilized that have been beneficial to them. If you're looking for, healthy behavior resources, we have things like that in an individual and neighborhood level. So again, same thing that Molly said, we really find value in bringing all of those organizations together to really elevate health as a shared value in the city.
Wonderful. And Ariane, final question to you. How do you think?
Yeah. So from the perspective of No Kid Hungry, we have tried to listen to organizations at the local level and figure out what people need in order to, make sure that families have access to their resources. And one thing that we have done that I know that's being used in Pinellas County is that we've launched a text line to help families find free meals and other food assistance. And so you can text food, FOOD, or comida, COMIDA, to 877-877. And it'll give you the closest 3 sites where you can access meals for your family. And then we've also, through a partnership with an organization called Aunt Bertha, it will take you through and it will help you figure out if you might qualify for other federal benefits like the SNAP program. And you can also get to that Aunt Bertha's information at findhelp.org, which has links to food resources, but also there's a healthcare tab and there are mental health resources in there as well. And so you can just put your zip code in and get access to that. So I think just, trying to work together and figure out, what is the best way to reach people and access, and then, following through and providing those resources as well.
Fabulous. I think we just have a few minutes. I know, Gabriella, if we had any questions in the chat, if we wanted maybe to bring that up and kind of toss those questions out to our panelists.
Sure. Actually, Ariane, thank you so much for about the text line. Somebody did mention a suggestion would be to have other, a lot of this information in other languages. So that's great that you can text the word comida instead of food. But one question from Julie Hill. She asked, can you tell us how close we are to having a free federal SBP USDA FNS in Pinellas County?
Yeah, so I was excited to see that question in the chat because next year, I actually believe that Pinellas County offers free breakfast all the time in all of their schools. But next year, through some of the flexibility that's happened at the national level, children will have access to free school meals the entire school year in all schools, Pinellas and all other counties. And so it's a really great benefit for families at, helping stretch their food budgets and also making sure that they have access to those meals. So it's wonderful. Yes. And I would encourage you to get involved at your local school, and, making sure that your kids have access to the foods that you want to see. And but it definitely will be available for all kids next year.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, Gabrielle, is there any more questions?
It doesn't look like it here, but if anyone else has a question, feel free to put it in the chat. Otherwise, I think we're just about done wrapping up.
Great. And again, I want to,
I was say I just texted the
Oh, did you?
number.
Hopefully it worked.
It works, and we're going to be sharing this with Healthy St. Pete. So thank you so much.
Wonderful.
And we'll definitely put this on the NAMI resource list too. Again, this is what it's all about, right? It's all about community and coming together. And I really just want to thank all of our panelists for taking time out of your busy, schedule. Christy.
We do have one more question, Denise.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Can we work on food and concession stands at school for sports? So I'm assuming just rewarding that more nutritious food being offered?
Yeah, I would say that there's a program through the Department of Health that Healthy St. Pete has worked on in the past that has some protocol and that we work on within the city for our city-sponsored events and for our snack program. It aligns with Smart Snack guidelines, but I would love to, I'll share that information with you guys as well to give out, and has some guidelines and some shopping guides that I personally have tried to get my kids' sports teams to adhere to. And it's a great model if other leagues or teams are looking to adhere to healthier snack guidelines. And there's a monetary breakdown as well that and some data that aligns with people don't think that people will buy healthier food if they offer it, but offering it as an addition or an option rather than the only thing you provide. So it's a great model.
Yeah, I mean, I will say as a parent of small kids and kids at a baseball field and things like that, there are so many evenings that what we have time for is what's at that concession stand. And, having healthy options in addition to the other stuff, I mean, would just be such a benefit for all families to just have the ability to make that choice. I think right now we're very limited in the choices, and just even providing that healthy choice as the easy choice is oftentimes all we need to be successful.
And I will say too that people always ask how they can get involved or how do I, participate? How do I join? This is one of the ways that you can do this on an individual and community level. You can take some guidelines, you can take ownership of this on your kids' team or your neighborhood events and say, hey, well, I would like to add some healthy options. I'll take that on, I'll take these guidelines, and that'll be my contribution to the greater organization as a whole. So those options and availabilities are definitely out there. So I will definitely share those.
Wonderful. Well, everybody, I know we're coming close to our time. So thank you so much for being here today. And Christy from Healthy St. Pete, and Ariane from No Kid Hungry, Molly from St. Pete Free Clinic. Really, all of your organizations have just a wealth of information. So, thank you so much for being here. We're definitely going to add all this information to our resource list. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. Great information, especially the 877-877. I did not know that. So again, learn something new every day. And that is something that I learned today. So we'll definitely go ahead and put that on our website. Again, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. NAMI is going to be having some additional webinars throughout the month. So please visit our website. The QR code is on the screen. We thank you all so much for joining us today, especially our panelists, our guests for visiting us. Thank you, Gina. And yes, we definitely need more healthy choices for our children. And I think these 3 organizations that are on the call today, these ladies are making it happen. So thank you so much for all that you do.